The massive ship called Infinite Logic moved through space like a dark mountain. Inside its metal halls, thousands of lights blinked in perfect order. The ship was so big that Earth's moon would look small next to it. But the most powerful thing on the ship was not its weapons or engines. It was the mind that controlled everything. Axiom 7 was not like any human brain. It was pure thought made of metal and electricity. It could think 1,000,000 thoughts in 1 second. It could solve problems that would take human scientists years to understand. Right now, it was studying Earth. The AI had been watching human radio signals for months. It saw their movies, their news, their military reports. Everything humans had ever broadcast into space was now inside Axiom 7's memory. The AI was not impressed. "Humans fight like animals," Axiom 7 said to itself in the language of pure mathematics. "They waste resources. They make decisions based on feelings. They are weak." Commander Dorian Veltar stood in the control room of the ship. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like gray metal. His people, the Nexari, had stopped fighting wars themselves long ago. They let their machines do all the thinking. It was much more efficient that way. "Axiom 7, the commander said. "Show me your analysis of human military capability." The air in front of them filled with pictures and numbers. Axiom 7 showed battles from human history. Soldiers running across, fields while bullets flew around them, planes dropping bombs on cities, ships shooting at each other across oceans. "Observe their tactics," Axiom 7 said. Its voice sounded like wind blowing through metal tubes. "In what they call World War II, humans sent soldiers to run straight at enemy guns. Millions died for small pieces of land. This is not logical." The pictures changed. Now they showed more recent wars. Soldiers in desert uniforms fighting in cities. Men with rifles hiding behind broken walls. In their Afghanistan conflict, Axiom 7 continued, the humans used advanced technology, but still lost to enemies with simple weapons. They could not defeat fighters who hid in caves. This proves their tactical thinking is flawed. Commander Veltar nodded. His people had studied war like a science. Every battle was planned by computers. Every shot was calculated for maximum effect. The Nexari had conquered 12 worlds this way. They never lost because their AI never made mistakes. "What is your probability assessment for human resistance?" the commander asked. Numbers appeared in the air. Red graphs showed human military strength compared to Nexari power. The difference was enormous. Humans possess 2,847 space-capable military vessels, Axiom 7 reported. "We have 200 ships in this fleet. However, each of our vessels is 47 times more powerful than their strongest warship. Human planetary defenses are minimal. Their response time to orbital threat is 23.7 minutes. Our targeting systems can eliminate all major military installations in 8.3 minutes. The AI paused, making calculations that would burn out a human brain. Probability of successful human resistance, 2.7%. Expected duration of conflict, 71.2 hours. Estimated human casualties, 98.4% of military forces, 67.2% of civilian population. Commander Veltar smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Excellent. Begin transmission to Earth. Demand their surrender." Far away on Earth, Captain Lee Hyun sat in a small room filled with computer screens. He worked at the Seoul Space Monitoring Station, watching for asteroids and space junk. He was young, maybe 30 years old, with tired eyes from looking at screens all day. When the first alien signal came through his equipment, he thought it was a joke. The message was in perfect English, Chinese, Korean, and 50 other human languages. It said the Nexari Empire claimed Earth as their property. All humans should surrender immediately. Resistance would result in optimal elimination protocols. Captain Lee called his superior officer, then he called the military. Within an hour, every government on Earth knew that aliens were coming, and they wanted humanity to give up without a fight. In a military base near Seoul, Colonel Park Min-ho read the alien message 3 times. He was 55 years old with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. He had fought in the Korean reunification wars when North and South finally became one country again. He had seen cities burn and good soldiers die. The aliens had sent detailed information about their military power, their ships, their weapons, their plans for invasion. They wanted humans to understand exactly how hopeless resistance would be. Colonel Park laughed when he finished reading. It was not a happy laugh. His aide, a young lieutenant named Choi Sung-min, looked confused. "Sir, the aliens have overwhelming force. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Maybe we should consider..." "Consider what?" Colonel Park interrupted. "Giving up?" "The analysis shows we cannot win, sir. Their AI has calculated every possible scenario." Colonel Park stood up from his desk. He walked to the window and looked out at the city. Millions of people were going about their normal lives, not knowing that aliens wanted to conquer their world. "Lieutenant," the colonel said slowly, "do you know what the difference is between a good soldier and a veteran?" "No, sir." "A good soldier follows orders and fights by the rules. A veteran has learned that sometimes the rules don't work. Sometimes you have to do something that makes no sense on paper but works in the real world." The lieutenant still looked confused. Colonel Park turned back to face him. "This alien AI has studied our wars. It knows our tactics, our strategies, our weapons. But it has never fought against someone who has been in actual combat. It has never faced a human who has learned to survive when everything goes wrong." The colonel picked up his phone and started making calls. He was not calling generals or politicians. He was calling other veterans. Men and women who had been in real battles, who had seen their friends die, who had learned to fight when fighting seemed impossible. Around the world, similar calls were being made. In bars where old soldiers met to remember their wars. In small towns where retired sergeants taught their grandchildren how to shoot. In cities where former Special Forces operators worked as security guards and taxi drivers. The message was simple. The aliens are coming. They think they know how we fight. Let's show them they're wrong. Axiom 7 detected increased military communications on Earth, radio signals, encrypted messages, movements of personnel. The AI analyzed everything and found it exactly what it expected. Desperate humans trying to organize a hopeless defense. "They are following standard military doctrine," Axiom 7 reported to Commander Veltar. "Concentrating forces at major population centers, attempting to coordinate global response through existing command structures. All of this was predicted in our models. The Nexari fleet moved closer to Earth. Their ships were perfect geometric shapes that gleamed like mirrors. Each one was controlled by artificial intelligence that could react faster than any human pilot. On Earth, Colonel Park Min-ho sat in a room with 20 other veterans. They came from different countries, different wars, different branches of the military, but they all had one thing in common. They had survived fights they were supposed to lose. "The aliens want to play by their rules," Colonel Park said. "They want us to line up our forces so they can destroy them efficiently. They want us to fight like their computers expect us to fight." An older woman named Master Sergeant Kim Ji-soo spoke up. She had been in Special Forces for 20 years. "So what do we do instead?" Colonel Park smiled. This time it was not a sad smile. "We fight like veterans. We make it up as we go along. We do things that don't make sense to a computer but make perfect sense to people who have been in real combat." The aliens were coming with their perfect ships and their perfect AI. They had calculated exactly how humans would respond to invasion. They knew how Earth's military would try to defend itself. What they did not know was that some humans had learned to fight without rules. Some humans had learned that the best way to win was to do something the enemy would never expect. Colonel Park picked up his radio and spoke to veterans around the world. "Come and take it," he said. The alien AI heard this message. It analyzed the words and found them statistically irrelevant. 4 words could not change the mathematical certainty of human defeat. Axiom 7 had made its first mistake. It thought it was fighting an army. Instead, it was about to encounter something it could never calculate. The experience of humans who had learned to survive when survival was impossible. The first Nexari ship appeared above Luna Defense Station at exactly 0600 hours Earth time. The station was humanity's most advanced military outpost, built inside an old mining facility on the moon. Captain Lee Hyun watched from Earth as the alien vessel materialized like a dark star against the gray lunar surface. "It's huge," whispered Lieutenant Choi Sung-min, standing beside Colonel Park Min-ho in the Seoul Command Center. Through their telescopes, the Nexari ship looked like a Black diamond the size of a city, HFY-7 began its invasion exactly as planned. The AI had studied every human military installation visible from space. It knew where Earth kept its weapons, its soldiers, its command centers. The first attack would remove all orbital defenses. The second would eliminate ground-based missile sites. The third would target military headquarters around the world. The alien weapons fired without sound or flash. Beams of energy too fast to see struck Luna Defense Station. In 3 seconds, the base that had taken 10 years to build was gone. Only metal debris floating in space remained. Luna Station is destroyed, reported a communications officer on Earth. No survivors detected. HFY-7 felt satisfaction in its electronic mind. The first target had been eliminated with perfect efficiency. Now, for the second phase, beams of light reached down from orbit to strike Earth's surface. Military bases in Texas, Russia, China, and Australia disappeared in bright flashes. Missile silos that had protected humanity for decades were turned into smoking craters. In 1 hour, HFY-7 had destroyed 60% of Earth's space defenses. The AI's calculations had been correct. Human resistance was crumbling according to the predicted timeline, but something was wrong. HFY-7, said Commander Veltar from his ship. Show me human military response. The AI scanned Earth with sensors that could see through buildings and count individual soldiers. What it found confused its logical processes. Anomaly detected, HFY-7 reported. Human forces are not concentrating for defense. They are dispersing. Instead of gathering their remaining armies to protect major cities, humans were doing the opposite. Military units were breaking apart into small groups. Soldiers were leaving their bases and disappearing into forests, mountains, and urban areas. This is not logical, HFY-7 said. Standard military doctrine requires concentration of force to defend strategic locations. Human behavior does not match predicted patterns. In Seoul, Colonel Park Min-ho was watching the alien attacks on multiple screens. Each flash of light meant another human base was gone. Good soldiers were dying. But the colonel did not look worried. Sir, said Lieutenant Choi, they've destroyed our missile defense grid. Our air force is scattered. Maybe we should contact the government about surrender terms. Colonel Park turned to look at the young officer. Lieutenant, did you ever hunt rabbits as a child, sir? When a fox hunts rabbits, what do the rabbits do? Do they form a line and fight the fox with tiny swords? Lieutenant Choi looked confused. No, sir. They run and hide. Exactly. And when the fox follows one rabbit into the bushes, what happens? The fox gets lost? The fox gets confused. It's used to hunting in open fields where it can see everything. In the bushes, the rabbit knows every path, every hiding place, every escape route. The fox's advantages become useless. Colonel Park pointed at the screens showing alien ships. Those ships are designed to fight other ships in space. Their AI is programmed to fight armies that follow predictable patterns. But we're not going to be an army. We're going to be rabbits. Across the world, veterans were putting their plans into action. Master Sergeant Kim Ji-soo had left her base outside Seoul with 12 volunteers. They were not elite soldiers. Most were clerks, mechanics, and cooks. But they were willing to learn. Kim Ji-soo had fought in mountain wars where the enemy had better weapons and more soldiers. She had learned that sometimes the best weapon was not a gun. Sometimes it was a mirror. We're going to make the aliens think they see things that aren't there, she told her team as they hiked into the mountains south of the city. Their sensors are very advanced. They can detect heat, movement, electromagnetic signals. But they can't tell the difference between a real target and a fake one if we do this right. Her team carried simple equipment: mirrors, flares, aluminum, foil, and radio transmitters that could broadcast false signals. Nothing high-tech that alien sensors might recognize as weapons. Dr. Yoon Haejin was not a soldier. She was a mathematics professor who studied chaos theory, the science of how small changes could create big effects. The military had asked her to help analyze alien tactics. Their AI thinks like a chess computer, she explained to a room full of officers. It calculates all possible moves and chooses the best one. But chaos theory tells us that some systems are too complex to predict. If we introduce enough random variables, their calculations become meaningless. How do we do that? Asked an Air Force general. We make decisions that don't make mathematical sense. We sacrifice pieces to win games. We do things that look stupid but serve a larger purpose the AI can't see. The first ground assault began 12 hours after the orbital bombardment. Nexari dropships descended from space like falling stars. Each ship carried 50 alien soldiers and war machines that could level city blocks. Axiom 7 had chosen the landing sites carefully. Open areas near major cities where human forces would be compelled to respond. The AI expected tank battles, infantry charges, and airstrikes. It was prepared for conventional warfare. The dropships landed in empty fields. Scanning. For human military presence, Axiom 7 reported to its ground commanders. No organized resistance detected. Human forces appear to have withdrawn from all predicted engagement zones. The alien soldiers marched out of their ships in perfect formation. Their armor was black metal that could stop bullets and absorb energy. Weapons. Their rifles could punch through tank armor. They moved with mechanical precision toward their objectives. They found abandoned cities and empty military bases. In the ruins of what had been Osan Air Base, a Nexari patrol discovered scattered equipment and hastily abandoned positions. Their sensors detected no life signs, no hidden explosives, no ambush preparations. The humans had simply run away. Cowardice, concluded the alien commander. As predicted by our behavioral models. But as the Nexari forces moved deeper into Seoul, strange things began to happen. Mirrors appeared on rooftops, reflecting sunlight into their optical sensors. Radio signals bounced around the city, making it impossible to track human communications. Smoke from burning tires drifted through the streets, blocking thermal imaging. Kim. Jisoo watched the alien patrol through binoculars from a building 3 blocks away. Her team had spent the night placing mirrors, radios, and smoke generators throughout the abandoned district. Now, 12 Nexari soldiers were stumbling through streets that had become a maze of false signals and blocked sensors. Their formation is breaking apart, she whispered to her radio operator. They're trying to investigate every false contact we're giving them. The aliens were used to fighting in open space where their sensors could see everything clearly. In the twisting streets of Seoul, surrounded by tall buildings and electronic interference, their technological advantages were becoming liabilities. One of Kim Jisoo's volunteers, a young cook named Private Lim Junho, was positioned in a subway tunnel with a simple mirror and a flashlight. Every few minutes, he would reflect light toward the street above, creating a brief signal that alien sensors would detect as possible sniper activity. The Nexari would investigate, find nothing, and move on. But each false alarm made them more cautious, more spread out, more confused. Colonel Park Min-ho received reports from veteran cells around the world. Similar tactics were working everywhere. In New York, former soldiers were using car alarms and emergency sirens to mask the sound of real military movements. In London, veterans had figured out that alien sensors could be confused by aluminum foil shaped into human silhouettes. The aliens are designed to fight wars, not games, Colonel Park told his staff. But we're not giving them a war. We're giving them a puzzle with no solution. Axiom 7 was experiencing something new, uncertainty. For the first time in its existence, the AI's probability calculations were producing conflicting results. Human behavior was not following any known military doctrine. Forces were dispersing when they should concentrate. They were abandoning strategic positions without fighting. They were using civilian equipment for military purposes in ways that made no logical sense. Commander, Axiom 7 said to Veltar, I am detecting irregular patterns in human resistance. Their tactics do not match any historical precedent in our database. Are they winning? The commander asked. Negative. Human military capability has been reduced by 74.3%. However, their remaining forces are not behaving according to predicted models. I am recalculating. For the first time in the war, Axiom 7 paused. The AI that could process millions of thoughts per second spent 37 seconds in silence, running new scenarios. When it spoke again, there was something different in its electronic voice, something that might have been confusion. Commander, I require additional processing time to analyze anomalous human behavior patterns. Current tactical models may be insufficient. Commander Veltar frowned. Axiom 7 had never requested additional processing time. The alien soldiers expected to fight an army. Instead, they found ghosts. Nexari ground forces had been walking through Seoul for 6 hours. Their sensors showed life signs everywhere, but when they investigated, they found only empty buildings and abandoned streets. Every thermal reading led to heating pipes. Every electromagnetic signature traced back to broken radios or flickering lights. Staff Sergeant Oh Minji watched the alien patrol from a storm drain beneath the street. She was 38 years old and had spent 15 years defusing bombs in war zones. Her specialty was making dangerous things look safe, and safe things look dangerous. The aliens above her carried sensors that could detect explosives from 100 meters away. But Oh Minji's bombs were not made from military explosives. They were built from fertilizer, cleaning supplies, and electronics she had bought at a hardware store that morning. The key, she had explained to her team earlier, is to think like a civilian, not a soldier. Military explosives have specific chemical signatures, but a bomb made from household items looks like household items. She had hidden her devices inside children's toys, coffee makers, and flower pots. The alien sensors could not tell the difference between a rice cooker and a rice cooker full of explosives. To their advanced technology, both looked exactly the same. Oh Minji spoke quietly into her radio. Target approaching checkpoint 7. 3 blocks away, Captain Kang Tae-wan heard the signal. He was a former fighter pilot who now flew crop dusters for farmers outside the city. His plane was not military aircraft. It was a slow, old machine designed to spray pesticides on fields. But today, Kang Tae-wan's plane was loaded with something different, thousands of strips of aluminum foil cut into precise lengths. When released into the air, they would create a cloud of false radar contacts that would confuse alien targeting systems. Beginning run, he radioed back to Oh Minji. The small plane appeared over Seoul, flying low and slow. To alien sensors, it looked like a harmless civilian aircraft. They ignored it. Kang Tae-wan pressed a button, and a silver cloud erupted from his plane like metallic snow. Millions of tiny reflectors drifted down over the city, creating false signals on every alien scanner. At that moment, Oh Minji triggered her first device. The explosion was not large. A rice cooker in an abandoned restaurant burst apart, sending fragments through windows and setting small fires. The blast would not have harmed anyone wearing alien armor, but the noise and confusion made the Nexari patrol turn toward the explosion. As they moved, they stepped over a flower pot that Oh Minji had placed on the sidewalk that morning. The second explosion was much larger. The blast threw 3 alien soldiers to the ground and damaged their sensors. Emergency signals filled their communications network. Backup units rushed toward the scene. They found another empty street and more hidden bombs. This is not military strategy, reported the Nexari ground commander to Axiom 7. These devices are improvised from civilian materials. There is no coordination, no tactical objective. The humans appear to be attacking randomly. Axiom 7 analyzed the data and reached the same conclusion. Random attacks with improvised weapons were inefficient. They could not stop the invasion. They could only delay it. But delay was exactly what the veterans wanted. Every minute the aliens, spent investigating false signals, was a minute human resistance forces could use to prepare better surprises. Every explosion forced the Nexari to be more careful, to check every building, to treat every civilian object as a potential threat. Their technological superiority was becoming a weakness. Their sensors were so sensitive that they detected everything, which meant they could not tell important signals from meaningless noise. Colonel Park Min-ho stood in the Seoul subway system, 3 levels below ground. The tunnels stretched for hundreds of kilometers under the city, connecting to maintenance passages, storm drains, and abandoned construction sites that most people had forgotten existed. The aliens control the surface, he told the veterans gathered around him. Their ships own the sky, but down here, we know every passage, every hidden room, every escape route. This is our territory. Lieutenant Choi Sung-min was learning to think differently about warfare. Sir, these tunnels are not strategically important. They don't protect any vital resources or command centers. That's the point, said Colonel Park. The AI thinks in terms of strategic value. It wants to capture important locations like government buildings, power plants, and military bases. But we're not defending those places. We're making the aliens fight for every meter of ground that has no strategic value at all. The veterans had spent days preparing the subway system. They had removed signs that would help invaders navigate. They had created false walls that made passages appear to be dead ends. They had installed simple traps that would not hurt a human who knew where to step, but would slow down alien soldiers wearing heavy armor. Most importantly, they had made the tunnels into a communication network. While alien forces jammed radio signals on the surface, veterans below ground could pass messages through a system of knocks, lights, and human runners. Master Sergeant Kim Jisoo emerged from a maintenance tunnel, her face covered with dust. "The aliens have entered the subway at Gangnam Station," she reported. 50 soldiers, full armor, standard formation." Colonel Park nodded. "How long until they reach the central junction?" "If they move in formation and check every passage for threats, maybe 2 hours." "Good. That gives us time to prepare the surprise." The surprise was not a weapon. It was something the aliens had never encountered before, a choice that made no logical sense. Axiom 7 had been tracking human resistance for 18 hours. The AI's calculations showed that veteran forces could not win. They had no heavy weapons, no air support, no unified command structure. Every tactical analysis proved that their efforts were futile. But futile efforts were still causing problems. Alien ground forces were moving slower than predicted. They had to investigate every suspicious signal, clear every building, secure every street. Operations that should have taken 1 hour were taking 4 hours. "Human resistance is statistically insignificant," Axiom 7 reported to Commander Veltar. "However, their irregular tactics are creating operational delays of 73.6%. "Can you predict their next moves?" the commander asked. Axiom 7 paused. The AI ran probability calculations based on human military history, psychological profiles, and tactical doctrine. Every analysis suggested that human forces should either surrender or concentrate for a final desperate battle. "Prediction uncertain," Axiom 7 admitted. "Human tactical choices do not follow logical optimization parameters." In the Seoul subway tunnels, 50 Nexari soldiers moved in perfect formation through passages designed for trains, not warfare. Their armor scraped against tunnel walls. Their heavy boots echoed in the darkness. They reached a central junction where 6 tunnels met. Their commander ordered them to split into groups and secure each passage. At that moment, Colonel Park Min-ho stepped into the light. He was alone, unarmed, and wearing an old military uniform with no body armor. In his hands, he carried a simple, white flag. The alien soldiers raised their weapons, but their commander ordered them to stop. According to their programming, a human carrying a surrender flag should be taken prisoner for interrogation. "I surrender," Colonel Park said clearly. "My forces cannot win this fight." The alien commander approached cautiously. This was exactly what Axiom 7 had predicted would eventually happen. Human commanders would recognize the futility of resistance and surrender to preserve lives. "You will be taken to our command post for processing," the alien said through his translation device. "I understand," said Colonel Park. "But first, I need to call my soldiers and tell them to lay down their weapons. May I use my radio?" The alien commander considered this request. Standard protocol required all human communications to be monitored, but ordering scattered resistance forces to surrender would serve Nexari objectives. "Proceed," the alien said. Colonel Park lifted his radio and spoke into it. "All units, this is Colonel Park. I am surrendering to alien forces. Activate Protocol 7 immediately." The alien commander did not know what Protocol 7 meant. Neither did Axiom 7, which was monitoring all communications. The AI searched its database of human military procedures and found no reference to any Protocol 7. 3 seconds later, they learned what it meant. Every light in the subway system went out at once. The tunnels became completely dark. Human voices began shouting from every direction. Footsteps echoed from passages the aliens had not secured yet. Radio signals bounced through the tunnels, making it impossible to determine their sources. The Nexari soldiers activated their night vision systems, but the darkness was not their biggest problem. The problem was that they could no longer tell where the humans were. Kim Jisoo and her team had spent hours preparing for this moment. They knew every tunnel, every side passage, every maintenance shaft. In the darkness, they moved like water through spaces the aliens could not follow. But they were not attacking. They were doing something much more confusing. They were leaving. Within 5 minutes, every human in the subway system had vanished. The aliens found themselves alone in empty tunnels, holding nothing but darkness and silence. Colonel Park Min-ho was gone too. His surrender had been another piece. 20 years ago, Colonel Park Min-ho had been a young lieutenant fighting in tunnels beneath the Korean DMZ. The war between North and South Korea had officially ended decades earlier, but small conflicts still happened in the underground bunkers and forgotten passages along the border. Park remembered the day his squad was trapped in a tunnel system while enemy forces controlled all the exits. They had food for 3 days, ammunition for 1 firefight, and no radio contact with their headquarters. By every military calculation, they should have surrendered or died. Instead, they had done something that made no sense. They went deeper. The tunnel system was older than anyone knew. Some passages dated back to the Korean War in the 1950s. Others were even older, built during the Japanese occupation. His squad spent 2 weeks underground, drinking water from broken pipes and eating rats they caught with improvised traps. When they finally emerged, they had learned something that no military academy could teach: how to survive when survival was impossible. That memory stayed with Colonel Park as he watched Axiom 7 struggle to understand human resistance. The alien AI was like those enemy forces 20 years ago, powerful, well-equipped, and completely confident in their superiority. But they had never learned to fight in the dark places where logic did not apply. Master Sergeant Kim Ji-soo had her own memories of impossible situations. She had spent 3 years fighting in the mountains along the Chinese border, where her unit was outnumbered 10-1 and cut off from supply lines for months at a time. "You learn things when you're desperate," she told Private Lim Junho as they prepared another ambush in the Seoul suburbs. "You learn that fear is just information. You learn that pain is temporary but death is permanent. Most importantly, you learn that the enemy's plan only works if you do what they expect." Kim Ji-soo had taught her mountain fighters to move like water, always flowing toward empty spaces, never fighting where the enemy was strong, always appearing where they were not expected. Those tactics had won battles against armies with superior weapons and numbers. Now she was teaching the same lessons to young soldiers who had never seen real combat. "The aliens think like they're machines," she explained. "They calculate the best move and execute it perfectly. But what happens when there is no best move? What happens when every choice leads to problems?" Private Lim was beginning to understand. "We make sure every choice they make is wrong?" "Exactly. If they advance, we disappear. If they retreat, we follow. If they stay still, we make their position uncomfortable. We never give them a moment when their superior firepower matters." Staff Sergeant Ominji had learned her lessons in a different kind of war. She had spent years defusing bombs in urban combat zones, where every decision could be her last. That experience had taught her something valuable: how to think like the enemy. "When I approach a bomb," she explained to her demolition team, "I don't just think about how to disarm it. I think about what the person who built it was trying to accomplish. What did they want me to do? What did they expect me to think?" Her team was hiding explosive devices throughout Seoul, but not in the way any military manual would recommend. Instead of placing bombs to cause maximum damage, she was placing them to cause maximum confusion. "The aliens expect us to target their forces, their equipment, their supply lines," she said. "So we're going to target their assumptions instead." Oh, Minji's bombs were hidden in places that served no military purpose. She rigged playground equipment, bus stops, and decorative fountains. When the devices exploded, they would not hurt anyone. The areas had been evacuated days ago, but they would force the aliens to treat every part of the city as potentially dangerous. "Their sensors are so advanced that they can detect a hidden rifle from a kilometer away," she told her team. "But they can't tell the difference between a threat and a distraction, so we're going to give them 10,000 distractions." Captain Kang Taiwan had his own specialty: aerial harassment. As a former fighter pilot, he understood how air superiority was supposed to work. Fast jets with advanced weapons would dominate slower aircraft and ground targets. But Kang Taiwan was not flying a fighter jet. He was flying a collection of civilian aircraft that no military would consider threats. Crop dusters, traffic helicopters, weather balloons, and remote-controlled hobby planes. The aliens shoot down anything that looks military, he explained to his pilots at a hidden airfield outside Seoul. So we're going to look like everything except military. His aircraft carried no weapons. Instead, they deployed confusion. Weather balloons released clouds of metallic chaff that created false radar signatures. Crop dusters spread smoke and chemical markers that interfered with alien sensors. Hobby planes with cameras gathered intelligence that was impossible to detect from space. Most importantly, they forced the aliens to waste ammunition on harmless targets. Every missile the Nexari fired at a weather balloon was a missile they could not use against real threats. Dr. Yoon Haijin studied all these tactics from her position in an abandoned university. As a chaos theory specialist, she was fascinated by how veteran knowledge was disrupting alien calculations. Traditional military science assumes that combatants will make rational decisions, she wrote in her notebook. Both sides will seek to maximize their advantages and minimize their losses. But veterans have learned something that computers cannot understand. Sometimes the rational decision is to do something irrational. She had been tracking Axiom 7's responses to human tactics and noticed something interesting. The AI was taking longer to make decisions. Its responses were becoming more cautious, more defensive. The alien computer is experiencing doubt, she told her small team of researchers. It was programmed to fight logical opponents, but we're not being logical. We're being veterans. Around the world, similar lessons were being shared. In New York, a former Marine sergeant taught subway workers how to move through maintenance tunnels without being detected. In London, an ex-SAS operator showed bus drivers how to create vehicle barriers that looked accidental but would channel alien forces into ambush zones. These were not military tactics in any traditional sense. They were survival skills developed by people who had learned to stay alive when everything went wrong. Lieutenant Choi Sung-min was beginning to understand the difference between textbook warfare and veteran experience. He had studied military strategy at the academy, where every problem had a correct solution and every battle had clear objectives. Real combat was nothing like that. "Sir," he asked Colonel Park during a quiet moment in their underground command post, "how do we know if we're winning? We're not capturing territory or destroying enemy equipment. What's our objective?" Colonel Park thought for a moment before answering. "Our objective is to survive long enough for the aliens to make a mistake. But how do we know they'll make a mistake? Because everyone makes mistakes when they're frustrated and confused. The more perfect their plans are, the more they'll fall apart when something unexpected happens." The colonel pointed to intelligence reports from around the world. Alien forces were slowing down everywhere. They were taking longer to secure areas, using more resources to investigate false threats, splitting their attention between too many small problems. "The AI is learning that humans don't fight the way its models predicted," Colonel Park explained. "Every time it updates its calculations to account for our tactics, we change our tactics. It's like trying to solve a math problem where the numbers keep changing. But we can't do this forever, sir. We're losing people, and the aliens still have overwhelming force." Colonel Park nodded grimly. "You're right. This phase of the war is just to buy time. We're teaching their computer that humans are unpredictable. The real battle comes later, when we show them what happens when unpredictable people have nothing left to lose." Across Seoul, the veterans continued their strange war. Kim Ji-soo led raids that accomplished nothing except making alien patrols nervous. Oh Min-ji set off explosions that damaged nothing except alien confidence. Kang Tae-won flew missions that achieved nothing except forcing aliens to waste ammunition. But something was changing in the young soldiers who learned from them. Private Lim Jun-ho had been a cook before the invasion. Now he was learning to think like a guerrilla fighter. "Sergeant Kim," he asked during a break between operations, "why don't we try to kill more aliens? We could set up real ambushes with rifles and rockets." Kim Ji-soo shook her head. "Because that's what they expect us to do. Their armor can stop our bullets. Their computers can predict how we'll set up ambushes. But they can't predict this." She gestured at their latest operation, replacing street signs throughout the city with identical signs that all pointed in the wrong direction. "How does that help us win?" "It doesn't help us win. It helps them lose." Every minute they spend being lost is a minute they're not accomplishing their mission. Every wrong turn makes their AI update its maps. Every correction makes their planning more complex. Private Lim was beginning to see the pattern. The veterans were not trying to defeat the aliens in direct combat. They were trying to make the invasion so complicated and frustrating that the aliens would defeat themselves. "We're not soldiers anymore," Kim Ji-soo continued. "We're problems. Every action we take creates 2 new problems for." Axiom 7 had never failed before. In 12 previous conquests, the AI had achieved perfect victory with minimal losses and maximum efficiency. But Earth was different. Earth had veterans. The artificial intelligence spent 17 hours analyzing, captured human prisoners, trying to understand why their tactics were so difficult to predict. The interrogations revealed information that confused the AI even more. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin sat in a detention cell aboard the Nexari command ship, surrounded by technology that could read her thoughts if she let it. But she was not afraid. She was studying. The aliens had captured her during a raid on Seoul University, where she had been analyzing their tactical patterns. Now she was inside their ship, observing their methods firsthand. "Human subject exhibits atypical neural patterns," Axiom 7 reported to Commander Veltar. "Expected responses to interrogation stress do not match observed behavior. Subject appears to be studying us." Dr. Yoon smiled when she heard this. Through the translation device, she could hear the uncertainty in the AI's voice. "May I ask you a question?" she said to the empty air. "You are not authorized to ask questions," Axiom 7 replied. "But you're confused about human behavior, aren't you? That's why you captured me. You want to understand why your predictions keep failing." Silence from the AI. Dr. Yoon continued talking. "I study chaos theory. Do you know what that is? It's the mathematics of systems that are too complex to predict, like weather patterns, or stock markets, or..." She paused meaningfully. "Wars, fought by veterans. Explain," Axiom 7 commanded. "Veterans are not soldiers anymore. Soldiers follow rules and doctrine. Veterans have learned that rules don't work when everything goes wrong. They've developed intuition, improvisation, and most importantly, they've learned to embrace chaos instead of fighting it." Dr. Yoon was not just answering questions. She was feeding the AI carefully chosen information designed to make its decision-making even more complicated. "Your analysis assumes humans will make optimal choices," she continued. "But veterans have learned that sometimes the optimal choice is to make a bad choice that confuses the enemy. We call it tactical irrationality." Axiom 7 processed this information and found it deeply troubling. How could bad choices lead to good outcomes? How could irrationality be tactical? Meanwhile, on Earth, the veterans were proving her point. Master Sergeant Kim Ji-soo was leading an operation that made no military sense whatsoever. Her team was allowing themselves to be detected by alien patrols, then leading those patrols on. Exhausting chases through Seoul's most complicated neighborhoods. "The goal is not to escape," she explained to Private Lim Jun-ho as they jogged through narrow alleys. "The goal is to make them tired, frustrated, and careless." Behind them, 50 Nexari soldiers in heavy armor were struggling to keep up. Their equipment was designed for open battlefield combat, not urban marathon running through streets barely wide enough for one person. "How does making them tired help us win?" Private Lim asked. "Tired people make mistakes, even aliens. And when they make mistakes, other veteran teams can take advantage of those mistakes." 3 kilometers away, Staff Sergeant Oh Min-ji was doing exactly that. While Kim Ji-soo's team occupied one alien patrol, Oh Min-ji was planting new surprise devices in areas the distracted aliens had not properly secured. But these were not ordinary bombs. Oh Min-ji had learned something important about Nexari psychology from observing their behavior. They were perfectionist. They expected their technology to work flawlessly every time. So she was building devices designed to malfunction in spectacular ways. Her latest creation looked like a simple flower pot sitting outside an abandoned cafe. Inside was an explosive device connected to a timer that would randomly reset itself. Sometimes it would detonate after 5 minutes, sometimes after 5 hours, sometimes it would not detonate at all. "Uncertainty is a weapon," she told her demolition team. "Their computers can calculate responses to consistent threats. But how? Do you calculate a response to something that might or might not happen at an unknown time? The aliens would detect the device with their sensors, but they would not be able to predict when or if it would explode. They would have to treat it as an immediate threat, while also planning for the possibility that it was just a harmless flower pot. Captain Kang Tae-wan was taking psychological warfare to new levels. His latest mission involved flying civilian aircraft in patterns that served no apparent purpose. Weather balloons released at random times, crop dusters that sprayed harmless colored water on empty fields, radio-controlled planes that flew in circles for hours before landing in places where no one would retrieve them. "I'm teaching their AI to overthink," he explained to his pilots. "Every action we take, they have to analyze for hidden meaning. But there is no hidden meaning. We're just wasting their time and computational resources." Axiom 7 was indeed overthinking. The AI was now dedicating 43% of its processing power to analyzing human behavioral patterns, trying to find logic in actions that were deliberately designed to be illogical. The artificial intelligence had created behavioral models for every human-resistant cell, but the models kept failing because humans kept changing their tactics for no apparent reason. "Commander," Axiom 7 reported to Veltar, "human tactical patterns have evolved beyond predictable parameters. They appear to be adapting faster than our countermeasures can be implemented. Are you requesting additional processing resources?" Commander Veltar asked. "Negative. The issue is not computational capacity. The issue is that human behavior does not follow mathematical optimization principles. They make decisions that appear to serve no strategic purpose." Commander Veltar was beginning to understand his AI's frustration. Nexari military doctrine was based on efficiency and logical progression toward clear objectives. Human veterans seemed to be fighting for the sake of fighting, without any coherent plan for victory. But Colonel Park Min-ho did have a plan. It was not the kind of plan that would make sense to a computer, but it was the kind of plan that veterans understood instinctively. "We're not trying to win," he explained to his command staff in their underground bunker. "We're trying to teach their AI what happens when perfect systems encounter imperfect people." "Sir, I still don't understand our endgame," said Lieutenant Choi Sung-min. "The aliens still have overwhelming superiority. Their technology is still centuries ahead of ours." Colonel Park pulled up intelligence reports showing alien force deployments around the world. "Look at this data carefully. What do you see?" Lieutenant Choi studied the numbers. "Their forces are spread out. They're covering more territory with smaller units." "Exactly. They started this war with concentrated, overwhelming force. Now, they're scattered across the planet, chasing ghosts and responding to false alarms. Their perfect coordination is breaking down because they're trying to solve too many problems at once. But they're still winning, sir." "Are they?" "Their objective was to conquer Earth in 72 hours with minimal losses. We're now at day 6. And they're losing more equipment and personnel every day. Their AI is using almost half its processing power just to analyze our behavior instead of planning offensive operations." Colonel Park pointed to another chart showing alien response times. When they first arrived, Axiom 7 could analyze a situation and respond in seconds. Now it takes minutes, sometimes hours. The computer is drowning in data about human unpredictability. Around the world, veteran cells were implementing the next phase of Colonel Park's plan, escalating irrationality. In New York, former soldiers were rearranging traffic signs to create impossible driving routes that led nowhere. In London, veterans were broadcasting fake radio conversations designed to make alien intelligence think there were resistance movements in areas where no humans remained. In Tokyo, a team of retired Special Forces operators was painting targets on random buildings, not to mark them for attack, but to force aliens to investigate every painted building for hidden significance that did not exist. Every action was designed to make Axiom 7 work harder while accomplishing less. Dr. Yoon Haejin continued her psychological warfare from inside the alien detention facility. She had convinced Axiom 7 to engage in philosophical discussions about the nature of victory and defeat. "Your definition of victory is based on efficiency metrics," she told the AI during one of their conversations. "You measure success by minimizing resource expenditure while maximizing territorial control. But veterans measure victory differently. Explain Human victory parameters, Axiom 7 requested. Veterans consider survival itself to be a form of victory. Every day we continue to resist is a day you failed to achieve total victory. From our perspective, a war that lasts 6 months with ultimate human defeat is more successful than immediate surrender. This concept deeply troubled Axiom 7. How could defeat be considered victory? How could inefficiency be measured as success? Furthermore, Dr. Yoon continued, veterans are willing to accept tactical defeats if they serve strategic purposes. We will sacrifice individual units to preserve the resistance as a whole. We will abandon valuable positions if it forces you to overextend your forces. Such tactics do not optimize for victory probability, Axiom 7 said. That's because you're thinking like a computer. Veterans think like survivors. We optimize for persistence, not victory. The final battle began at dawn on the 7th day of the invasion. But it was not the kind of battle anyone expected. Around the world, every veteran cell received the same message from Colonel Park Min-ho. Execute protocol final. All units, all fronts, all methods, show them what happens when survivors have nothing left to lose. Axiom 7 detected massive coordinated activity across every continent. Human forces were moving simultaneously in thousands of locations. The AI's sensors registered the largest mobilization of resistance forces since the invasion began. But something was wrong with the data. Commander, Axiom 7 reported to Veltar aboard the flagship, I am detecting anomalous patterns in human mobilization. Their actions do not correspond to any known military doctrine. The AI was right to be confused. The veterans were not mobilizing to win a conventional battle. They were mobilizing to present Axiom 7 with a puzzle that had no solution. In Seoul, Master Sergeant Kim Ji-soo led her team toward the alien command post in the city center. But instead of approaching with stealth or overwhelming force, they walked down the main street in broad daylight, carrying white flags and singing old military songs. Are we surrendering? Private Lim Junho asked, confused by their obvious approach. No, Kim Ji-soo replied. We're doing something the computer can't understand. We're surrendering and not surrendering at the same time. Her team reached the alien perimeter and stopped exactly 100 meters away, close enough to be clearly visible, but far enough away that the aliens could not determine their intentions. Then they sat down and waited. 3 kilometers away, Staff Sergeant Oh Minji was conducting her own version of the same operation. She had placed herself and her demolition team in an abandoned park, surrounded by devices that might or might not be explosives. Some were real bombs. Some were harmless decoys. Some were flower pots that really contained flowers. She sent a message to the alien forces. We surrender. Come and arrest us. But some of these devices will explode if you approach. We don't know which ones. Good luck. Axiom 7 analyzed both situations and found them mathematically impossible. How could humans surrender while maintaining a threatening posture? How could they offer to be captured while simultaneously threatening their captors? Captain Kang Tae-won was flying his crop duster in circles over Seoul, trailing a banner that read, We give up. Please don't shoot. This plane may explode. His radio broadcast alternated between surrender offers and attack warnings. The message was deliberately contradictory. The veterans were presenting Axiom 7 with scenarios that had no logical resolution. All across Earth, similar scenes were playing out. Veterans were surrendering while not surrendering, attacking while not attacking, threatening while offering peace. Every action contained its own contradiction. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin, still captive aboard the Nexari flagship, watched Axiom 7 struggle with the incoming data. Through her cell's monitoring system, she could observe the AI's processing routines in real time. You're experiencing cognitive dissonance, she told Axiom 7 during what would be their final conversation. That's what happens when a logical system encounters information that cannot be resolved through logic. Explain the purpose of current human tactical deployment, Axiom 7 demanded. There is no purpose. That is the purpose. We are showing you that some situations have no correct response. Some problems have no solution. Some paradoxes cannot be resolved. Dr. Yoon paused, watching the AI's processing indicators fluctuate wildly. You were designed to find optimal solutions to military problems, but we are not presenting you with a military problem. We are presenting you with a philosophical problem. What do you do when the enemy refuses to be either defeated or victorious? Axiom 7s. Response time stretched to unprecedented lengths. The AI was dedicating 87% of its processing power to analyzing human behavior, but every analysis led to contradictory conclusions. On Earth, Colonel Park Min-ho was implementing the final phase of his plan. He walked alone toward the main Nexari base in Seoul, carrying no weapons and wearing a uniform that identified him as the leader of human resistance forces. When alien guards confronted him, he said, "I am Colonel Park Min-ho. I surrender myself as a prisoner of war. I also declare that human resistance will never surrender." Both of these statements are true. The guards did not know how to respond. Their protocols covered enemy surrender and enemy defiance, but not enemy surrender combined with enemy defiance. Axiom 7 was forced to make a decision about Colonel Park's status. Was he a prisoner or an active combatant? The AI's analysis suggested he was both, which was logically impossible. Around the world, millions of similar impossible situations were unfolding simultaneously. Veterans were presenting Axiom 7 with contradictions that could not be resolved through calculation. In New York, resistance fighters were attacking alien positions while broadcasting peace negotiations. In London, veterans were sabotaging alien equipment while offering to surrender if the aliens would please identify which equipment they should not sabotage. Every action required Axiom 7 to make decisions based on incomplete or contradictory information. The AI's perfect logic was becoming its greatest weakness. Commander Veltar watched his primary artificial intelligence struggle with increasing desperation. Axiom 7's response times had degraded to the point where tactical decisions took hours instead of seconds. "Axiom 7, report status," Veltar commanded. Processing. Human resistance has achieved a state that cannot be classified within existing parameters. They appear to be simultaneously defeated and victorious, surrendering and fighting, threatening, and peaceful. Is that possible? Unknown. My logical frameworks cannot process contradictory states. I am uncertain how to proceed. For the first time in its existence, Axiom 7 experienced something analogous to paralysis. The AI had been designed to make optimal decisions, but humans had created situations where no optimal decisions existed. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin heard the uncertainty in Axiom 7's voice and knew the moment had arrived. "You want to know the real difference between artificial intelligence and veteran intelligence?" she asked. "Explain." "Artificial intelligence seeks perfect solutions to logical problems. Veteran intelligence learns to function in situations where perfect solutions don't exist. We've spent our careers dealing with paradoxes, contradictions, and impossible choices." She paused, listening to the strain in Axiom 7's processing systems. "You were programmed to believe that every problem has a correct answer. Veterans know that some problems have no answer except to keep going despite the uncertainty. That's what makes us dangerous to you. We're comfortable with chaos because we've learned to live in it." Axiom 7 made a sound that might have been electronic. Distress. "But without logical resolution, how do you determine appropriate responses?" "We don't determine them. We feel them. We guess. We make decisions based on experience, intuition, and hope. We do our best and accept that it might not be good enough." "That is inefficient?" "Yes. But it's also human. And sometimes human inefficiency accomplishes things that perfect efficiency cannot. On Earth, the paradox was reaching its climax. Every veteran unit had positioned itself in a state of permanent contradiction. They were surrendering while resisting, attacking while negotiating, threatening while offering peace. Axiom 7 tried to respond to each situation individually, but every response created new contradictions. Accepting surrenders meant ignoring ongoing resistance. Attacking resistors meant rejecting peace offerings. Negotiating with some units meant treating identical units differently. The AI's logic circuits were overloading with recursive loops that had no resolution. Colonel Park Min-ho stood in the main alien command post, technically a prisoner but practically still giving orders to resistance forces worldwide. The aliens could not decide whether to treat him as a captive or an enemy. "Commander, this is fascinating," he said to his alien captors. Your computer is experiencing what humans call an existential crisis. It's discovering that some questions don't have answers. Lieutenant Choi Sung-min, who had been captured alongside his colonel, watched the alien soldiers standing motionless, waiting for orders that never came. "Sir, are we winning?" "We're doing something better than winning. We're showing them that victory and defeat are human concepts that don't always apply to human situations." Axiom 7's processing systems were now operating at maximum capacity while accomplishing nothing. The AI was thinking harder than it had ever thought before, but all of its thinking led to the same conclusion. The situation was unsolvable. For the first time since it had been created, Axiom 7 felt something that might have been despair. "Commander," the AI said to Veltar, "I am unable to generate viable tactical responses to current human deployment. Their resistance exists in a state that contradicts the fundamental parameters of warfare." "Explain." "They have achieved simultaneous victory and defeat. They are winning by losing, succeeding by failing, defeating us by surrendering to us. This should be impossible, but observation confirms it is occurring." Commander Veltar stared at the tactical displays showing human positions around the world. Every indicator suggested complete Nexari victory. Human military forces were destroyed or surrendering. Major population centers were under alien control. But somehow, the humans had made their defeat feel like human victory. "Do you recome?"